Welcome, Dolphins fans, haters, and everyone in between to your favorite show discussing the greatest franchise in sports, the Miami Dolphins. This is the PhinsPod. My name is Moose, your host, and the vibe around the team is palpably different right now, isn't it? And I know that there are plenty of Debbie Downers out there who feel optimism at 3-7 is unwarranted, but I disagree. Not only has the team been playing better now for the last month or so, but the schedule has really opened up. Today, we're going to look at the road ahead and see what chances this team has down the stretch to actually make things interesting in December. In order for that to happen, though, not only does this defense need to stay consistent, which we'll get into, but the offense must pick up their performance. So we're going to talk about what they can do moving forward to improve their scoring, explosiveness, and potency. 3-7, 4-7, 5-7, 6-7, and shit, you're now 7-7. Obviously, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, but why not? Let's dive in. Starting with the schedule. Like we've said, the Dolphins are 3-7, and I get not feeling too hopeful about the rest of the 2021 season. I do, but bear with me. This week, the team travels up to New York to face the New York Jets for the first time. That's good news for us because we get them twice, and the Jets have been playing exactly like many expected, bad. The Jets had a relatively solid month. In October, they pulled out big wins against the Titans, which surprised me and also shows that any given Sunday is real. And then they also beat the Bengals. Since then, they have fallen back. Specifically, though, their defense has been really bad. They started the month falling to the Colts 45-30, and now most recently, they lost to the Bills 45-17. So they've allowed more than 30 points for 4 straight games. Miami has a shot now to open some things up with Tua. Obviously, the Jets could play great ball, and we crapped the bed, leading to a surprise loss. But here's the thing. I don't think Miami's going to put up any stinkers going forward. Since playing Tampa Bay, it does feel, obviously not to the degree we wanted, but it feels like the Dolphins have picked up their game, steadily improving each week until they were eventually able to get to a point where they shocked the world and beat Baltimore last week. So, assuming the team doesn't have an in-season regression, we should expect similar levels of play at least going forward, and in that case, you should be able to handle the New York Jets. So, if Miami takes care of business there, they move to 4-7. Also, remember, Miami has had extra time now to prep for the Jets. Because of that Thursday night game, Miami had about 10 days instead of the usual 7 you get right after a Sunday. So, you know that there's a defensive game plan ready to go with all that extra time to prep. Plus, Joe Flacco is getting the starting call. And last time we played him on the Jets, we handled them 24-0. And I feel good about our zero blitz look giving him fits like it did last year. Not to mention, this isn't Adam Gase's offense that Joe Flacco had time to be in. He was pulled. I don't know exactly. I don't remember where he was traded from. I think the Eagles. And when he was acquired, this is a brand new scheme for him. He was traded this week, I'm pretty sure. He signed this week. I don't remember when. It was a couple weeks ago. But he's not comfortable in what the Jets are doing. So it's not even like last year where he knew what he was doing, and Miami still, with similar levels of talent that they have, were able to dominate with this type of defense. Assuming the same situation, now you got the same similar levels of low talent that the Jets have, our defense now playing well, and a Joe Flacco who doesn't even know what his play calling is or hasn't had time to gel with any of his weapons. So honestly, I don't think Miami should lose. I think Miami's going to win convincingly, but if we get to another episode before, obviously, the game on Sunday, I will be there for Finn's takeover, so if you're there, be sure to holler. I'll be wearing that PhinsPod sweatshirt, so say hello. But again, the Dolphins should absolutely be able to handle the New York Jets. And then Miami returns home to face the Carolina Panthers at 4-7. Now, earlier this season, if you asked me, hey, Miami's got to play the Panthers, I would have felt like, hey, a tough one, but not really anymore, specifically because the Panthers decided to roll with Cam Newton, and I love that. Cam Newton is not a threat to throw the ball at all anymore. He is a threat to run in the read option, and he is a threat in goal-to-go situations because he can throw 5 yards down the field or take the ball up, get you a touchdown. But considering that we just handled Lamar Jackson, who is a far better passer of the football at this point in his career and a better athlete and runner, I think this defensive front can bottle up Cam Newton. Obviously, P.J. Walker, that's a different question. I think P.J. Walker would have more success. And if the Panthers struggle, which I think can come, because I know they did well against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals were depleted, and they also did not have Kyler Murray. Anyway, I don't think the Panthers are nearly the same team that people thought they were at the start of this season. The question in this game, and also the Jets game, is going to be surrounding Miami's offense, since the Panthers have a pretty fast and explosive defense. So when you consider opponents like the Ravens, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, the Panthers should be handled by this improving squad, especially on defense. So if Miami's able to beat the Panthers now, I know, is it a stretch? No, I don't think it is. I honestly think it's not crazy to say the Dolphins will beat the New York Jets and then should handle a team that has been regressing mightily all season long at home nonetheless. So if Miami does that, you're looking at 5-7. Definitely not as bad as 1-7. We were just a couple of weeks back, 1-7. And honestly, if Miami is able to pull off this win, then we went from 1-7 to 4-7 very fast. And I know the Thursday night game helped make it feel that way, but it would really, really inject more life into this team. And then if they are able to handle the Panthers, that's 5-7. Now, the opponent I think Miami could have the toughest time with down this stretch is the New York Giants, who come up next. Miami also plays them at home, but the Giants, despite their record, they're a feisty team. They play solid defense, led by Patrick Graham, who was the Miami former defensive coordinator in Brian Flores' first year, and Joe Judge, their head coach. He's trying to run a similar style program as Flores has implemented down in Miami, obviously both being Belichick-style guys. But when you consider both rosters, Miami has more talent. And when you compare the quarterbacks, Tua has more to offer than Daniel Jones. So assuming Miami has won these games, they're probably playing pretty well. And if they're at that point, I'm going to take Tua. He's got more to offer than Daniel Jones. So if Miami continues to play sound football, not make mistakes on offense, and hold opponents to probably under 20 points a game, then they should be able to handle the Giants. The G-men should go down. And then Miami's at 6-7. But it's also important to remember that Miami plays them at home, and that New York team is going to be traveling down to Miami in December. Miami should take care of business there, which again, like the games prior, the Jets and Panthers, is very possible. Despite all the depression and horrid play we have seen, if Miami puts it together, beating these teams is very possible. And now you're looking at a 6-7 team. And then Miami's able to get a much-needed bye week, resting up a little bit. Players, any banged-up guys, able to come back. Hell, maybe Will Fuller or Devontae Parker may be able to show up at that point. But any lingering issues with Tua hopefully is well resolved with that extra time and this time to heal, as long as he's not getting beaten up week in and week out. The best news is Miami then comes off that bye week in week 14, and then in week 15, they stay home and face the New York Jets once again. Now, obviously, if Miami loses any of those 3 games we just mentioned, then this doesn't matter. But if Miami's able to pull those out and is at 6-7, then they get a little bit of a break, plus another break in the fact that you got an easy-ass opponent after. If Miami's able to sweep the Jets, pulls out the wins against the Panthers and Giants, ladies and gentlemen, our Miami Dolphins are 7-7. At that point, not only has the season been salvaged to some degree, but the Dolphins would be in the thick of the playoff race with just the Saints, Titans, and Patriots remaining. The best part, the AFC is also close this year, so there's not really a lot of teams separating from the pack. Many teams will be playing each other and knocking each other out of the running. Miami's schedule, on the other hand, helps them avoid these games and those opponents that are very important. Obviously, we already played them earlier and lost, like the Raiders, but still, guys like the Raiders, the Broncos, Chargers, Bengals, Steelers, Patriots, Colts, Ravens, they all play each other a bunch. And as a result, you're going to have teams that don't make it to the 9 or 10 wins despite having 4 or 5 wins right now. When you consider that Miami's Monday night game against the Saints is going to feature Trevor Siemian at quarterback, I feel much better about our chances. Then Miami gets to play a Titans team without Derrick Henry, and yes, it will be the Ryan Tannehill revenge game, which does keep me up at night, but still, at that point in the season, the fact Miami would even be playing relevant football at all is insane. In this wild world, in this crazy outcome, one where Miami goes on a hot streak and pulls out all these wins, not only would they be 9-7, but they very likely would enter that Patriots game with a win and you're in type of situation. I know, I'm talking playoffs. Knowing us, we'll fall to the Jets this weekend, but we'll get to that if we need to. For now, I choose to hope. The schedule is breaking right for us, and the team is playing their best football now. Aside from any major injuries or wild performances from opposing teams like the Jets or Giants, I feel good about Miami's chances each and every week. Obviously, we don't know what will happen, but based on where we are now, Miami has a puncher's chance in every game, and in most of them, they should be able to win. So honestly, if they're going on this hot streak, they're stacking these wins on top of each other, it's going to build confidence in the team as well, confidence in the coaching staff, and it's going to help turn the ship around if they're able to keep winning week in and week out. If something like that happens, then not only would it validate Brian Flores and his ability to hold a locker room, but it would show the grit and strength in this young roster, mental toughness to make the thought of running it back and bringing some players back, Flores, Greer, maybe Tua, maybe Watson. We'll get to that as well. But it won't make it sound nearly as bad because, a couple weeks ago, the idea of bringing back Greer and Flores, you're like, no. But now, if they're able to string together some wins and make the season spicy, obviously, even if they lose, like, say they lose the Panthers game but win the other ones, you finish 9-8, like, that's a great finish. Even 8-9 shows that Flores did not lose the locker room, considering it started 1-7. So that would definitely change a bit of the narrative. So am I really out here talking about a potential 9-game winning streak to close the season? Yeah, maybe I am. Crazier things have happened. Would I bet money on it? Probably not, because every Sunday is unique, and each game obviously has its own storylines, its own narrative, and its own unique outcomes. We've seen as much in the last week with our own Dolphins. Now, in order to make this fantasy that we've talked about a reality, we need a few things aside from health. This defense needs to stay at this level, if not improve. And I don't mean hold the Ravens to like 3 points and not let anyone score any points. Just make opposing offenses' lives difficult. So you need solid play to continue from Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Justin Coleman. That secondary has got to stay solid. Obviously, it does not have to be locked down. But X has been chirping a lot in his press conferences. He's sort of feeling himself now after making that big play. If X is able to elevate his game to that all-pro level, that's going to help this defense immensely and help the back end stay consistent. And again, Byron Jones as well. Start playing a bit to what we're paying you, man. You're not bad, but you're not great either, or even really good. You're just solid or fine. We need more from Byron Jones. And this defensive line must continue as well to stay stout against the run. We've seen much better performances over the last few weeks playing the run. Having Raekwon Davis back fully healthy is huge, but guys like Adam Butler and Zach Sealer, they have to continue to make plays. Christian Wilkins has continued to stay healthy. Obviously, he's battling a quad injury right now, but hopefully he's able to continue to play and keep the energy up for this team. The linebackers on the defensive side of the ball have to play with more understanding and not get beat on outside runs, washed in the running game, miss any gaps, or allow running backs and tight ends to become receiving threats when they decide to pass. So you need Jerome Baker or Landon Roberts to not start missing tackles and missing assignments like they were doing early on in the season. And most important to this defense's success, in my opinion, Miami has to see continued ascension from Jevon Holland. And like we spoke about in the last episode, the free safety position is the quarterback of this defense. The way the scheme is, Jevon is really responsible for a lot, for aligning the coverages, calling the defense as a whole from that back end, making sure his fellow teammates are lined up properly and are adjusting to what the offense is doing. We're seeing Jevon play more and more in the box. So he's going to have opportunities to make plays in the backfield like we saw last week, as well as plays in the secondary like we saw against Houston. He's getting better each week, and we heard as much from Jerome Baker, who spoke highly of him. I think I'll put a clip of what he said about Jevon Holland at the end of this episode, so be sure to stay tuned. He spoke very highly of the rookie. So honestly, Miami, if he plays well, could have the Defensive Rookie of the Year on their hands. If not, a very, very bright future for number 8. So there's that. The defense has to stay solid for anything like a 9-game win streak to even be considered possible. But here's the thing. I have faith in that. Where my faith begins to waver is the offensive side of the ball. Because in order for the Dolphins to go on this run, the offense has to find some form of an identity and play their best ball of the year. And yeah, I know, this line stinks. I know we can't expect improvement from them, but I can expect improvement from the play calling, right? Last week, it felt like Miami was beginning to understand their limitations and started calling games within it a little bit more. Sending Albert Wilson into motion regularly, using him as a decoy on running plays, or setting him up for a swing pass. Miami doing that weird-ass flea flicker. We saw the Wildcat on the goal line against Houston. The offense pushed the ball a bit down the field last week, especially when you consider we actually saw some 40-plus yard plays, but the RPO concept started going back a little bit and were only implemented when the other things in your offense were actually working. And most importantly, you got an unadulterated Tua. No more Watson rumors leading up to games. No more issue about ribs or a finger. The team is now fully his, and he can help the coaches put game plans together and make calls which benefit him because there's not all this other noise. Now it's like, look, we got to win. We got to play. And I believe that that's what they were telling themselves, that that was the mentality and approach. But considering what we now know of how invested Miami was with the Watson stuff, you cannot tell me that this coaching staff was actually 100% focused on the long-term success of Tua. Now, all the coaches can do is work with the guy to finish out the season strong and cater this offense for his success. If Tua is the guy a lot of us believe him to be, he has his best football ahead of him. If you remember, prior to him injuring that finger, Tua was on a bit of a roll against the Jags and Falcons, having his best 2-game stretch in his career. It was the defense which let him down, a defense which was not performing the way they're performing now. He then banged up his finger against the Bills and struggled, but most quarterbacks struggle against Buffalo's defense, which is highly underrated. And when you also consider Miami held Tua out of their practice for 2 weeks, obviously he'd be a little rusty when he returned. Well, I'm not sure about you, but the offense was still, despite that rust, much better in the second half of that Ravens game than they were the whole game prior against the Texans and obviously the first half. And when you consider not one team down the stretch has a better defense than the Ravens that we're going to play. Not the Jets, the Giants, not even the Patriots. Well, the Patriots you could argue now. But the Ravens have a very good defense, and Tua should be able to get confidence by playing these weaker opponents down the stretch. And if he plays well too, that will build confidence. So my specific keys for this offense to improve. First, run through Tua. That means call what he likes. Give him flexibility at the line to adjust things. Make a game plan around what he does well, not necessarily what the opposition doesn't do well. Look, I'm all for attacking the opposing defense's weakness, but there's something to be said about playing to your own strengths and forcing the opponent to deal with that. It feels like Miami is so focused on finding mismatches and exploiting weaknesses that they haven't really built up any of their own strengths on offense. In terms of play structure, you want to see Tua try to push the ball down the field. Obviously, to do this, you need protection. But Miami can do that by having a heavy line with 2 tight ends staying in the block, send out 2 receivers, try to stretch out the defense. Like, there are ways to send Jalen Waddle deep down the field. You might not hit on it, but do it. Because not only will it build confidence in Tua and him to actually potentially make that play, but it also makes defenses respect the fact that you might send guys deep, which obviously opens things up underneath. Or if you want to give Tua more time in the pocket, get him out of the pocket. Roll him out. We never see rollouts in this offense, and I don't know why. Tua is great at throwing on the run, and the simple act of escaping the pocket and running out is going to buy him time, considering if he stays in there, it's going to collapse at any given second. Miami also needs to focus on calling plays to get their weapons the ball. I don't care about the Ravens scheming out Gesicki. Keep him in line for a rep, make him pretend to block, and then slip him out for a screen. Force the ball into his hands. Even if it's just a 3 or 4 yard gain, it gets him going a little bit, and it forces the defense to respect the fact that you might still force him the ball. Honestly, that deep swing pass as well that we saw for Albert Wilson, take that and put in Jalen Waddle. Let him maximize his speed on a running start. Without either Devontae Parker or Will Fuller, there's definitely not that much surplus of talent right now surrounding Tua. Obviously, when you're talking about Albert Wilson, after you get through your first two receiving threats, you know that you're kind of in dire straits, is when you expected to have Will Fuller and Devontae Parker a part of the mix, at the very least showing up every other game, but unfortunately they've missed plenty of games, and it appears we'll be missing more down the stretch. So there is definitely a bereft of talent around Tua. But here's the thing, as we've said before, this isn't fair, but at this point, it is what it is. If Tua wants to establish himself as the future of the Miami Dolphins, then he has to elevate not just his play, but the play of those around him. We got a glimpse of that against the Ravens, but it has to continue, and the play at large has to get better. With the help of a better defense, though, Tua can help Miami start to play that complementary football. And like we've said before, Flores-led teams do tend to play better down the stretch, or at least in the beginning of the second half of the season. There are still guys who are yet to play to their full potential. So getting a big game here and there from someone who you don't always expect to make that big impact, guys who just come out of nowhere, that's always possible too and could really help shape out this season. I'm talking about guys like Jalen Phillips. We haven't seen him have that, oh, I get it game yet. He's really still trying to feel it out. He's making impactful plays for sure, especially in the run game, but as a pass rusher, he hasn't completely figured it out. Guys like Raekwon Davis, he has the capability of taking over a game and single-handedly ending your running attack, but we haven't seen that. And then Byron Jones, like we mentioned, he has not been playing up to that contract that he got. He needs to have a game where he gets a turnover, makes some impact plays. Look, is it irresponsible to be discussing this? I mean, for this to happen, not only would it mean the Dolphins would finish 10-7, a successful season, but have won 9 games in a row. That's ridiculous. And having that expectation is frankly concerning about someone's mental health. I get that all the time. That's fair. But I'm not here saying that I believe it's going to happen. Any given Sunday is absolutely a reality, so a loss on any of these next games is very possible. But this is the situation Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins are in, and that they've put themselves in. They've underachieved so much early on that we've now reached a point where winning out is your real only hope of salvation. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but there is a chance, and I'm holding on to that hope and potential thrill. How awesome would that be? But I do feel that a slip-up is bound to happen over the next 7 games. But here's the thing. Not only is Miami playing their best football right now, the football gods really have lined up quite the opposite of a murderer's row. All Miami has to do is play the football they're capable of, what we expected them to be able to do when this season started. Smart, disciplined, effective ball. A defense which forces opponents into methodical drives. A lot of time wasted, a lot of plays, also leading to more opportunities to, in those plays, have a penalty, drive-killing moments, or turnovers. And on the other side, you have a unit which is able to move the ball between the 20s effectively and with consistency and run the ball to the point where opposing defenses have to at least respect it and be efficient in your passing attack. No interceptions, no fumbles, and generally an offense which takes advantage of those favorable positions that they're going to be put in, which are set up by the defense. Whether that be great field position, whether it be great field position off a turnover, or frankly just defensive touchdowns and holding on to leads, it's something this offense has to do. I have faith in Flo to coach the defense up, and I have faith in the young talent that we have on that side of the ball. So I do think this defense can play well. I mean, look, when you look at this team on paper, Jevon Holland playing very well, Xavier Howard, an all-pro, Byron Jones, a multi-time Pro Bowler, Jerome Baker, a great young linebacker, Emmanuel Ogbah, an awesome pass rusher, Andrew Van Ginkel, rotational guy, Brandon Jones, Christian Wilkins, Jalen Phillips. The list goes on. The talent is absolutely there. And I have faith in Tua Tagovailoa. Now, there's been time to build some understanding of what you do well and what you don't as an offense. They've had 10 games now to figure out, look, this is working and this is not. So, hopefully, the coaches can now scheme up more opportunities and explosive plays down the stretch. If not, and this offense continues to struggle, then we won't be talking playoff chances. We'll be talking off-season replacements. What are you expecting from this team? Let me know on Twitter at PhinsPod or leave a comment down below. What chances do you give this team of pulling out something amazing and actually finishing strong?
I mean, the guy, he really gets better every day. If you go back and watch the training camp tape, he was a step behind. And then every week it was like he got better and better. I remember the one practice he was a step behind. Well, at first he was a step behind, and then he was deflecting the ball, and then the next week he was actually catching the pick. And sure enough, the following Sunday, he ended up actually catching the pick. So he's one of those guys that if you just keep doing what he's doing, he's going to be one of the best safeties in this league. And, he's young, but he truly just loves being out there with the guys and performing and just going hard. I'm just surprised his leadership back there. And he really took that to heart. When guys went down, he stepped up, and he knew that we were going to lean on him a lot, and he definitely stepped up to the challenge, and his ceiling is going to be so high. So I'm definitely happy for him, and I'm glad he's on our team.
That's going to do it for us here today. Thank you all so much for listening to the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, as always, to Timothy Ritchie, Brian Guger, Brandon Leist, and Chris, members of the pod and supporters of the show over on Patreon. Check that out. Links in the description, or head to patreon.com/PhinsPod. Thank you all so much for the continued support, and please remember to like the video if you enjoyed the show and subscribe just so you never miss a chance to chat about your Miami Dolphins. Remember that the show is available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and of course here on YouTube. Continue the conversation with us over on Twitter and Instagram at PhinsPod. Hope you all have an amazing day, and until next time, stay safe. Love y'all.